day everyone, especially to our professor in EDMA 503, Philosophy and Psycho-sociological Foundations of Education, Dr. Leandro C. Torion. And to my co-masterants, maadong adlaw natong tanan. I am Carlo A. Pidoche, 26 years old from Concepcion, Mabini, Bohol, and I am currently connected at Concepcion National High School in Mabini District. For today, I will be your reporter on a topic which I presumed we are familiar with. Pero base nakalimot ra siguro tano kay pag-college ra ba to. This is the psychosexual human development theory, which was introduced to us by the very famous Sigmund Freud from 1856 to 1939. Naniguro gid ko og search anhi sa akong silingan kasi Google no kay narap sa pinatunggan nga ini-pronounce ko no Simon ko na ni pag-pronounce. So akong gi-sure Sigmund gid ay siya. Okay? So, just a short background. Sigmund Freud was the founder of the psychoanalysis. This is a theory of how the mind works and a method of helping people in mental distress. So, Sigmund Freud was born on May 6, 1856 in Freiburg, Moravia. Today, that is Pribor or Czech Republic, to a family of Jewish wool merchants. So, moreover, we all know that there are many, there are a number of theories about how we act and how personalities develop. But Sigmund Freud remains to be the most well-known and controversial even up to these days in the 20th century. He is the one who tied up the concept that the ability to function well as an adult is very connected, directly connected to our childhood experiences. So he also believed that personality develops during early childhood. So ang atong mga na-experience ko nung pagkabata nato, mao na ang nag-shape sa ato ang personality o atong attitude, atong behavior karon isip mga adults. So he also believed that kitang tanan kinahanglan ta nga moagi, we must pass through a serious na stage during childhood, and that if we cannot surpass or we lack proper nurturance and parenting during a stage, we may become stuck or fixated in that stage. So kaning stages, these are called the psychosexual development of human. So mo ni atong i-discuss karon. So there are 5 stages of psychosexual development according to Sigmund Freud. But before we go to these 5 stages, we have here a picture, an optical illusion. So kanay as somebody kung unsa inyong nakita sa picture? Joker recorded naman dahil no? So anyways, just a reminder, di ay labong wa pag yun magsugod, there might be terms or part of the report that are inappropriate for some audiences. So, maaring maglalaman ito ng masiselang tema, lengguwahe, karahasan, sexual, horror o droga na hindi angkop sa mga batang wala pa'y buot. Ito, so joke aside, medyo sensitive yun ni siya nga topic kay base na ako'y maingon nga mga term na dili sakto, mga yun na lang kung pasensyadaan kay mao lagi psychosexual ang ato ang paghisgutan karon, so mag-expect ta nga basin na ako'y mabungat nga dili mao. Okay, so mga yun na lang taong pasensyadaan. So going back to the image, this is a very intriguing image of Sigmund Freud entitled What is on a Man's Mind? Unsa ko noy nasa una sa usa ka tao o sa kalaki. So ato ning at mo pwede man ni siya mapadaka ano, mapadaka ng siya ana. Okay, so we can see here a man, usa ka lalaki nga bungoton. But we also can see a woman, a naked woman. So according to Sigmund Freud, he propagated that the highest motivator in human beings sa mga tao kuno isn't power, not our primary needs kanang ato ang food, sleep, ngana and others, but he believed that sex is the main force that motivates men and women and gives meaning of life. Tinuod ba ka ni? So, let's just keep that question in mind and let's answer that later. Okay? So, as we go along these psychosexual stages, let us first define and unlock important terms para mag-guide ta. Ug unsay pasabot ani nila nga mga terms, and let us start with conflict. So, according to Freud, each stage of psychosexual development comes with some degree of conflict and frustration. He theorized that how completely a person is able to move on to the next stage depends on the degree of conflict and how the person is parented. Kiunsa siya pag-amuma sa iyahang mga kinikanan. So, in Freud's theory, conflict is part of every stage, and the ability to resolve these conflicts and move on is a large part of developing into a healthy adult. So, kung makasugat ang conflict kuno pagkabata nato kani nga term nga conflict ani, kung ato na siyang ma-move on, then we could be a successful adult. So, unsa may causes sa conflict di ay? So, Freud believed that the id, kanang id nga ko ano, so familiar man siguro ta aning id, no? So this is the primitive and the instinctual part of our personality. So mo na siya ang kanunay nga nagka-conflict with expectations from both of the authority and the society. So as we recall, di ba, according to the Freud's psychoanalysis theory, the id is the primitive and instinctual part of the mind that contains sexual and aggressive drives, o wala ko masayop, and hidden memories. So, di ba tulo to sila, si id, si superego, ug si ego. Si id mao na ang ato ang lustful desires, whereas si superego, that operates our moral conscience. Okay? So, and then the ego is the realistic part that mediates, siya mo ay mediator between the desires of the id and the superego. Sakto ba ko? Sakto ba? Alagi, lain na gyud ning way mo tubag, no? So Freud speculated that every psychosexual stage involves conflict between the id and external forces nga maunay nagdevelop into ego and superego mga between ages 3 to 6 years old, according to Sigmund Freud. So to help his point of conflict, na siya gihatag nga metaphor. So nga kay niyon man siya nga every stages kuno anhing psychosexual development theory makaagita og conflict or naatay sana sagubangon nga problema or conflict in every stage. So naghatag siya nato og metaphor. Matod pa niya, ang iyang gihatag nga example, during a war, troops are sent out to battle against their opponents. So siguro sa mga duwa sa kanang mga duwa sa cellphone, iba na natay mga stages nga makuanan kung ma-success ka ana, so therefore maka-proceed ka sa next nga stage. But if ever wala ka makasolve adto nga conflict, you deal that with great difficulty, there will be less successful in moving forward to the next confrontation or battle. So kay na-stuck man ka, wala man ka makasolve successfully adto nga conflict, na-stuck ka within that stage, wala ka makaproceed og maayo sa next stage. Though ning padayo na ka kay ang imong edad ning saka naman kay naman ni stages sad ning o naman sa ages anhing psychosexual development theory of Sigmund Freud. So niabot na ka sa imong edad nga dapat naa na ka adto unta sa next stage, pero kay wala pa ka maka-recover, wala pa nimo ma-solve ang conflict within the first stage, na-stuck pa ang imong una-una adto, that somehow na anay apekto puhon ini kadako nato. Okay, so na-stuck ta ato ako. So the same process ang nahitabo during sa psychosexual stages sa ato ang development. If the conflict causes a great deal of frustration or if the child is overindulged, so duha ni siya kapaagi frustration o overindulgence. So ato pa nang i-discuss karong taw-taw dog unsa ni silang duha. So ato ning okay, so unsa man ni frustration, overindulgence and fixation according to Sigmund Freud. So Freud thought that frustration, overindulgence, and a subsequent fixation could all arise if conflict during a psychosexual stage is not resolved. So sa ako nang giingon ganina, during that stage sa ato ang psychosexual development, natay maagian na conflict. So kung dili na nimo ma-resolve na conflict, it's either ma-frustrated ka o overindulgence. Ang kalainan na ani nilang duha, ang fixation, di ba, maotoy mahitabo kung asa ganita frustration or indulgence. So ang frustration, if ever wala to nimo mamaayo og solve to a conflict, nakuwangan ka, maka-fixation ka, or mao nang gitawag ka nga ma-stuck ka within that stage. Kung overindulgence po, nasubraan ka anha nga stage, fixation gihapon ang mahitabo nimo. So ningon siya nga, he describes fixation as what happens when some of the part of the libido, ang kaning libido, this is a Latin word for lust or desire. So this term was borrowed by Sigmund Freud as the name sa iyang concept pod sa iyang theory. So he defined libido as the instinctual energy associated with the sex drive. So mo nang libido mo ra og medyo kanang familiar siguro nga terms ani ang mga adult na, pero ang pasabot ani sa libido mao man ni ang kanang satisfaction nga mahitabo within this stage. So mo sa iyang giterm sa tanan nga stages mao ning libido. Okay? So according to Sigmund Freud's structural theory, ang kuan man to no, ang id or mo ni gitawag nato og libido, mao ni ang aggressive urges and the primary process of thinking. So akong balikon, in other words, fixation happens when the libido or the pleasure-seeking urges, kanang satisfaction nga makuha nato within that stage nga nagsugod pagkabata is unresolved. Wala mamaayo og pagresolba or na-stuck ta. On the other hand, Freud claimed that overindulging children needs at each stage could lead to the same result. So kung nasubraan sad ka, overly satisfied, it could also lead to being stuck or being fixated there. So maunay fixation. So ang frustration na kuwangan, ang overindulgence na subraan, ang resulta fixation or being stuck. So depende po na anhi nga mga stage. Okay? So let's proceed to the next slide. So mauna ni ang 5 Sigmund Freud's psychological stages of human development. So Freud's theory of psychological development consists of 5 main stages. So morning oral stage, anal stage, phallic stage, latent stage, and the genital stage. So each one is characterized by a specific kind of conflict and an erogenous zone, or the part of the body where satisfaction happens, anhi nga mga stages. Okay, so ani nga mga stages na ay conflict o naasay erogenous zone. So ang kaning erogenous zone, akong balikon, this is the part of the body nga anha mahitabo ang katong pag-satisfy sa urges or sa satisfaction. So sa ato ang oral stage, mouth. During the anal stage, the bowel and the bladder control. The erogenous zone, the genitals, and then the latent stage, ang libido is inactive, at during the genital stage, puberty to death, maturing sexual interest. So ato ni silang usa-usahon og discuss kung unsa ning conflict nga ilang maagian o kaning ilang erogenous zone. Okay? So for the oral stage, in the Freud's theory, the oral stage begins at birth and typically lasts until children are 1 year old. So the oral stage is characterized by a pleasure-centered and libido being centered around the mouth. So, ang since infants' primary way of interacting within the world is through their mouth, Freud thought this is where the libido is focused. So, mauni. Now, with the rooting and sucking reflex or kanang breastfeeding, biting, and tasting different foods, the oral stage is about satisfying the id. Kato ako gingon ganina nga kanang satisfaction needs through the mouth. So, ang tanan nga satisfaction, tanan nga uh, urges sa bata na satisfy through their mouth. Mauna ang oral stage. So since infants primary way of interacting with the world is through their mouth, mauni ingon si Sigmund Freud nga ang libido naa sa mouth. So he believed that if a child at this stage is not properly weaned or becoming less reliant on caregivers, then fixation occur. So fixation could occur at this stage if an infant's needs for security, largely fulfilled with feeding, were not met. So wala siya mamaayo pag breastfeeding, wala siya mamaayo pagpakaon, na possibility nga ma-fixated siya anha na time. Wala siya mamaayo pagka-guide sa iyahang parents. So ang mahitabo inikadako na niya mo ni ang iyahang kanang result kay niingon man si Sigmund Freud nga ang mga nahitabo during this psychosexual development development is not satisfied and is not kanang met. Wa niya ma-solve ang conflict, wala mamaayo pagpadako, wala ma-met ang expectations sa iyahang libido or katong itawag nato og satisfaction, makita na inikadako na niya. So kasagaran ko no nga mga wala na-fixated during the oral stage, mo ni ang mga tao nga compulsive habits nila through their oral nga kanang kuan, mao na kasuno kasagaran, mao ni mga tig-inom, tig kanang grabe mo kaon or excessive drinking, since ang ilahang oral stage pagkabata nila wala ma-satisfy. Okay? So nasabtan ba to? Next is the anal stage. Okay, so according also to Sigmund Freud, he characterized the anal stage as a shift of erogenous zones from the mouth to the anus, diba? And the focus of successful toilet training. So pagkabata nimo 0 to 1 years old, ang tanan nga satisfaction nakuha nimo pinaagi sa mouth. Gikan na sad sa 1 to 3 years old, anhi na sad ni focus ang erogenous zone, diba? Mouth man to gikan sa oral stage, inig-abot sa anal stage, ari na sa anus or sa lubot. Okay? So mo na sad sa niya ang focus or ang libido anhi nga time sa 1 to 3 years old. So the anal stage, which Freud believed to take place when children are on 1 to 3 years old, shifts the pleasure center from the mouth to the anus. Sa man ang anus no, where children find pleasure in defecating or sa pagkalibang. Okay? So Freud also believed that it is a period of independence. So the child realizes that they are a person separate from their parents with a growing list of individual needs and desires. So ilang mga desires, ilang pleasure na asa anus, mao ni iyahang libido. And then Freud also thought that the ego, the sense of self in relation to the external world, develops during this stage and his anal stage. So he also believed that children from 1 to 3 years old, mao na ni sarana kanang ang iyahang impulses, ang iyahang id, ang iyahang ego anhina magsugod. So Freud also believed that the ego mediates between the primary urges of the id and the realities of the world. So the more specific conflict of the anal stage, so however nag-revolve ra gyud ni siya sa toilet training. So kanang giunsa nato pag-train ang bata para mahimo or mag sana giunsa nato sila pagtudlo sa saktong pagkalibang anhi nga stage. So children need to learn to control their bodily needs, and parents play an important role during this phase. So toilet training based on a system of reward and praise can lead to successful navigation and advancement to the next stage. So, kung namaayo na to pag-train ang bata with reward and praises, kung sakto ang ilahang pagpanghinno sa ilang kaugalingon, inikuman nila og libang, mao ni ang makalid nga makatabok na sila, mas successful na sila anhing nga stage. So because children feel proud of their accomplishment and begin to see themselves as competent and capable, kay anhiman ang independent na magsugod nga time. However, Freud thought that parental responses that are either overly lenient or overly harsh could cause the opposite result. Mauna ni ang fixation. He believed that being too strict, either by being critical or punishing a child for not meeting toilet training goals, wala mamaayo, wala dili makahibaw, could cause an anal retentive personality. So gidescribe na ni Sigmund Freud as katang stricto, overly strict ka, or obsessed with neatness and extremely stingy with money. Mo ko na ang mga kuan nga mahitabo kung wala ka kung na-fixated ka sa anal stage. So he thought that children who experience linear toilet training could develop the opposite. So the anal explosive nga personality. So this manifests a messy, disorganized, and rebellious adult. So duha ang ipasabot ni Sigmund Freud anhi nga time. Kung pagkagagamay ko nimo, sige kasab-an or stricto ang imuhang training during kanang para sa toilet training nimo, you could either be messy o misorganized, or kung nasobraan rasad ka, maunang over rasad ka kaayo, kalimpyado, bisag yana ra. So, or stricto gyud ka, kaya dapat limpyo gud kanunay. Ingon ana ang ina mahitabo sa fixation sa anal stage. So moving on, ikatulo is the dili siya kaayo makita, ako ni i-move ana, phallic stage. Okay, so the next stage of psychosexual development according to Freud is the phallic stage, characterized by a change in sexual impulse from the anus to the genitals. So gikan sa mouth, sa oral, nidong sa anus during the anal stage, sa phallic stage ni arhi sa atubangan, sa genitals na ta. Okay? So Freud believed that phallic stage begins when children are about 3 and continues until they are 6 years old. So according also to this theory, mao na ni ang kanang controversial nga Oedipus and Electra complexes develop. So unsa man ni si Oedipal complex daev sa Electra complex nga kanang siguro familiar sa taani, no? Okay, so ako sang basahon ang iyang definition. So masturbation and a focus on genitals are sources of pleasure during the phallic stage. Okay? So in addition to the pleasure of masturbation, children may become aware of the opposite sex for the first time. Anhi nga stage, makahibaw na sila sa kanang ilahang opposite sex. Okay, so Freud believed that this awareness of sexual differences could cause attraction and rivalry, as well as jealousy and fear. So his theory was that this can result in the Oedipal complex or Electra complex. So ang Oedipal complex describes when a male child desires their mother. So katungod kay na expose sila o nakasabot na sila nga na ay opposite sex, ang ilahang pagtan-aw sa kanang ilahang mama, murag nga na ba na Oedipal complex sila nga abi nila og kanang mao ni ang kanang sarana, mao ni ang ako ang man, a woman of my dreams. So tungod kay nakita nila nga ang ilahang papa maoy kanang sana duol sa ilahang mama, nga abi nila kanang sana ang ilang ang na ang ilahang desires padung dai sa ilahang mama. Mo nang kasagaran mga bata ani nga time ganahan magpaduol sa ilang mama, pero kay nakita nila nga kanang ang mama ug ang papa ma-threat siya, ma-jealous siya sa iyang papa. Mo nang either iyang sundugon ang iyahang papa or maningkamot siya nga mapalayo or magpaduol gyud siya og maayo sa iyahang mama. Mao na si Oedipal complex. Oedipal complex. On the other way around, kung ang bata nga baji ganahan na sa iyahang papa, mao ni sad ang Electra complex. So mao ni ang gi-consider pod nga most controversial sa theory ni Sigmund Freud, nga theories niya kaning Oedipal complex nga nag-describe nga ang male child desires their mother. So ang Electra complex pod, ang female children desire their father. So ni-follow man gud ni siya sa katong myth bitaw ni Oedipus sa kaning Oedipal complex nga ang boy or ang laki ganahan nga maminyo sa iyahang mama. So but when he realized that ang iyahang papa is a strong, very strong, dako nga kalaban, ingon siya nga iyang gi-align ang iyahang kaugalingon sa iyahang papa. So ang imo ta iyahang kanang singada na coping mechanism. So iyang gisundog og unsay paagi sa iyahang papa. So mao na siya ang partially fixed nga kanang sana fixation anha nga time. So kaning stage sa phallic stage sa ako nang giingon mo nang giingon nga most controversial kay mura siya og kanang dili kaayo realistic ang iyahang explanation, pero mao to ang Oedipal complex o ang Electra complex present anhi nga mga time. So ani nga mga bata ganahan sila mopaduol, ang laki nga bata ganahan mopaduol sa ilang mama, the other way around ang mga badging nga bata ganahan nga magpaduol sa ilang papa because they develop their desires to their opposite sex pinaagi sa ilahang mama o papa. Now, morning masturbation ang focus on the genitals are the sources of pleasure during the phallic stage. Okay? So, sa to si Sigmund Freud believed that unresolved phallic fixation could have a negative outcome later in their life as men and women. So mahimo silang self-centered, low sense of self-worth, shyness are some of the traits that Sigmund Freud nga giingon siya nga mao ni ang makarakterize sa mga fixated anhi nga stage. And he believed that it could show itself in woman as kanang sa mga badge nga katong na Electra complex or na fixated anhi nga time, mga flirtatious nga mga bae anhi nga time. Okay, so padayon ta with the fourth nga stage from 6 to puberty is the latency stage. Okay, so Freud described the time between 6 to puberty nga period. So when the id is suppressed by the ego. So he characterized this stage as the child relating to the community by adapting values, developing social skills, and forming relationships with people outside the immediate family. So ang latency stage, ang iyang libido ani dili kaayo siya active pero more on engagement, socialism sa iyahang community. So gikan sa iyang immediate family, nigawas na siya, nakipag-socialize na siya sa uban ng mga tao. So ang id mo oy na suppress na anhi ni ego, and then si ego o si super ego play a significant role anhi nga phase, directing sexual energy towards different outlets. And unsa man nga mga outlets nga ilahang gishiftan sa ilahang sexual energy and desires, hobbies, school activities, and learning any other phases of life and another experiences, learning experiences, developing skills, mao ni ang latency stage. Okay, so mao po giingon nga like the other stages. So si Freud believed that fixation was possible at this stage, resulting in immaturity and inability to develop close interpersonal relationship with others as an adult, since socialism man ang iyang kuan ani makighalubido naman siya sa uban nga mga tao. Okay? And last but definitely not the least, ang mao ni ang ego, si id o sa super ego. Si id mao ni ato ang manly desires, mo ni ang ato ang last nga paturatuyan ta. Si super ego mo ni ang ato ang moral conscience, and si ego mo ni ang kanang mediator mo ay nagbira na hila nga dili ka palabi o pakabuang, dili ka palabi sa imong gibati o si di pod ka palabi sa imong pagkabuutan. Sakto-sakto ra mo na si ego. And lastly is the genital stage. Freud believed that with the start of puberty comes a reawakened active libido and sexual attraction happens. And he's a genital stage. So anhin na niya na theorize that opposed to the phallic stage which was focused on self-pleasure, the pleasure during the genital stage is focused on heterosexual nga pleasure. So, sa ihang opposite sex, sa katong phallic stage sa ihang mama o sa papa, karon sa genital stage ang iyahang libido anhin na sa iyahang heterosexual nga pleasure. Okay, so if fixation or conflict developed during the early stage of life, si Freud nagtuo nga ang sana perversions kanang sa may like term na pagkauwagan might develop during anhinga time, so preventing those sexual relationships. So katupong uban nga fixated during this genital stage would find more pleasure in kissing and oral sex than through intercourse. Samot na tong mga later stage nga katong bitaw sila wa sila maka sana wa sila maka surpass or na fixated sila sa oral stage, mas hatagan nila pleasure sa ilang kaugalingon sa oral na sex kaysa anhi sa genital stage nga kanang intercourse gyud ang mahitabo. Okay, so this phase, kaning genital phase, nag different ni siya sa any other stage sa ego and super ego, kay na-develop naman gud ang imuhang na-develop na diay ang imuhang ego, imuhang id o ang super ego ani nga time. So unlike when you are younger, nagi-control dra sa id o sa puberty, so anhi nga time nakasabot na ka sa imuhang pleasure sa imuhang anong opposite sex o sa standard o expectation sa community. Okay? So mao to ang 5 ka stages of psychosexual human development by Sigmund Freud. But this psychosexual development is criticized. Nga naman gi-criticize man ni. So mao ni ang iyahang explanation despite of the kanang prevalence and influence, Freud's theory of psychosexual stages have received numerous criticisms. Nga naman, because scientific researchers and feminist theorists have criticized anhi kay. For example, Freud's theory are difficult to test scientifically according to them, and some research has found the theories to be not fully plausible. Freud himself never performed empirical studies, relying instead of anecdotal accounts from his adult patients. So finally, ang kaning nakafocus sa ni sa male development as well as the penis envy theory. So mao ni ang naglead sa mga feminist scholars to declare this theory as unsubstantiated and entirely incorrect. Kaya nakafocus ra siya mainly sa laki nga development. Mao ni mga feminist ning alma nga na siya ning oppose ang hingatay. Okay, so mao to ang kanang 5 ka psychosexual stages of human development according to Sigmund Freud. Daghan nga argue, daghan o kanang ning batikos anhi kay mao lagi to nga mga reasons, but Freud argued that adults struggling with fixation could find resolution through therapy. So during therapy, some people ang ilang feelings through their therapist ma-process na siya o ma-transfer, and sometimes transference can be negative, but Freud believed that all transference was a gateway that could move someone from illness to recovery. So at the end of the day, kung kanang bisan pa man nagsigi sila og debate anhi kung tinuod ba gyud ni nga theory, ang psychosexual theory mao ni ang mura og fixed og sakto gyud that early childhood experiences play an enduring and crucial role in lifelong personal and social development for us as persons. Ang mga nahitabo nato sa una naagid na epekto karon sa atoan ng adulthood. And these are my references. I hope nga in one way or another nakapasabot ko ninyo sa psychosexual theory kay nagsige sa kugunaw na unsa ulit ako pagpasabot kay maski ako sa katong mga during those stages naglibog sa kung unsaon ang iyang fixation, but I hope I have nakapasabot ko ninyo nanikabot pud ko nga makasabot ko anhi. So these are my references sa katong tanan akong gipang sulti, which you can also tan-aw, you can also see sa mga references o silang tulo. And once again, this is Carlo Pidochi saying thank you for listening and watching this. Daghan kayong salamat o good day everyone.